Centaur Theatre, located at 453 Saint-François-Xavier Street in Old Montreal, is one of the most beautiful venues Montreal still has around. Originally built as the Montreal Stock Exchange, the building transitioned from a high-energy, stressful environment into one dedicated to art and expression. Although newspaper reports are relatively mild compared to some of the other venues we've covered, the walls have still seen alleged suicides, harassment, and even stories of a supernatural being said to occupy the building. So let's turn down the house lights, illuminate the stage, and step into the venue's history. This is Backstage After Dark. Centaur Theatre, as mentioned before, was originally built in 1904 as the Montreal Stock Exchange. It was designed by George B. Post, the architect behind the New York Stock Exchange, with Montreal architects Edward and William Maxwell overseeing the project locally. The Stock Exchange witnessed fortunes made, fortunes lost, and countless games of risk and luck. Brokers shouted prices across crowded trading floors while investors speculated on railways, mining companies, banks, and industries that would help shape the future of Canada. These walls also witnessed some of history's biggest events, including the First World War, the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, and the Second World War. The Stock Exchange remained in the building until 1965, when it relocated to a newer location. For the first time in more than 60 years, the building no longer served the purpose it had originally been built for. The rooms sat quiet and empty. Or did they? What happened inside while the building waited for its next chapter remains largely unknown, leaving plenty of rooms for speculation. In 1969, the doors reopened as the brand new Centaur Theatre. South African theatre director Maurice Podbury founded the company with the goal of creating a permanent home for the professional English language theatre in Montreal. At first, the company leased only part of the former Stock Exchange building, but it didn't take long before it became clear that the space had potential. In 1974, Centaur purchased the building outright and invested approximately $1.3 million into transforming it into the theater we know today. The following year, in 1975, the renovated venue officially opened with 2 performance spaces. One thing I found really interesting while researching Centaur is just how much of the original Stock Exchange was preserved. Unlike many historic venues that were completely rebuilt, Centaur still carries reminders of its previous life, giving the building a unique personality all on its own. Over the decades, Centaur established itself as one of Montreal's most respected theaters. It became known for producing Canadian works, introducing new playwrights, and providing English language theatre with a permanent home in the city. One production in particular helped cement that reputation. In 1979, Centaur premiered Balconville, written by David Finario. The play was something Montreal audiences had never really seen before. It mixed English and French naturally, reflecting the way many Montrealers actually spoke every day. The production became a tremendous success and remains one of the defining works of the Canadian theatre. By this point, Centaur had become an established and respected venue across Canada. Actors, directors, technicians, playwrights, and musicians spent countless hours inside these walls, rehearsing, building productions, and working behind the scenes to bring stories to life. After decades of performances, thousands of people had passed through the building. Thousands of emotions had been poured onto the stage, which raises an interesting question. How much of that energy stays behind? Well, that's where the paranormal stories begin. According to local folklore, a stockbroker who suffered financial ruin during the Great Depression never really left the building. Some claim he ended his life after jumping from the roof. I wasn't able to find documentation, but considering what this building represented during one of the darkest financial period in its history, it's easy to understand how a legend like that could have developed. Other stories are tied directly to the theater itself. One of them tells of an actor who was reportedly bullied throughout the production. According to the story, after his death, he asked that his ashes be placed somewhere inside the theater so he could remain part of it forever. His friends are said to have hidden them amongst the theater's potted plants. Whether that actually happened remains difficult to verify, but the story has been passed down for a while. Staff claim that when drinks unexpectedly spill at the theater bar, it's simply the actor reminding everyone that he's still around. Then there's another story that I found surprisingly wholesome. The ghost of a young boy. Unlike many ghost stories, there doesn't seem to be any fear attached to this one. People describe him as curious rather than threatening. He's said to quietly watch rehearsals from the audience and is occasionally spotted sitting near the edge of the stage. But just as quickly as he's noticed, he's gone. Nobody seems to know who he was or why he's there. Only that he seems to enjoy the theater as much as everyone else. And then there's the story of the vampire. Yes, apparently every old theater could have a chance to have one. According to one local legend, a vampire once occupied the building, hiding his coffin amongst theatrical props. Now, normally I'd end the story right there and tell you that I couldn't verify any of it. But that would be a lie. I happen to know one of Montreal's vampires. His name is Rick. Rick was born in the 1700s, has spent the last few centuries trying to settle into a normal life, and now dreams of becoming Montreal's most trusted weather presenter. Since he's allegedly been around long enough to witness much of Montreal's history firsthand, I figured I'd ask what he remembered about the Centaur and whether he knew the vampire himself. So I reached out to Rick to see if he remembered the building before it became the Centaur Theatre, and this is what he had to say.
Yes, it is I, Lord Rickiban von Ottoman, aka Rick the Vampire Weatherman, with a special message for Sarah. Happy birthday, Sarah. Your birthday forecast is that it will be raining blood. And Sarah is, it's not for your birthday. Okay. You want me to talk about the Centaur Theatre? Okay, yes, I did live there briefly after the stock market crash. It was a former stock exchange, and good free eats, no questions asked, and I kind of stuck around. Now, just want to let you know, presently, Rick does not dine in the same way. I'm trying to change myself, trying to focus more on being a serious meteorologist. So the vampire thing is why you want to hear from me, but my past is kind of, it's in the past. But yes, I briefly lived there. Nice, creepy old building. Now there's a theater there, so enjoy the plays. And it's not your birthday, but happy birthday when it is. Thank you for ordering this cameo. I'm Lord Rickiban von Ottoman Sarah, Rick the Vampire Weatherman.
Well, that was somehow both more and less helpful than I expected. As entertaining as Rick can be, one story connected to the Centaur stood out to me far more than anything he had to say. This story comes directly from someone who performed on the Centaur stage. According to the performer, there was a particular moment during a production where they would stand alone under a spotlight and begin singing their portion of a 7-minute musical number. Every single night, the same thing happened. Shortly after the spotlight came up, they noticed what appeared to be a cloud-like figure slowly drifting into the light. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a shadow. It was more like a mist. It would quietly drift into the spotlight, remain there while they sang, then leave just moments before the lighting cue changed. The second night, they questioned whether they had imagined it. But as the production continued, it kept happening, night after night, during the same song, under the same spotlight, always leaving just before the lights changed. Eventually, they started wondering if they were losing their mind. Then, during the final week of the production, something happened that made them question it even more. Late one night, somewhere around 1:30 in the morning, they were alone inside of the theater, recording an original song using equipment that had been set up on the stage. No matter what they had tried, the recording refused to cooperate. The good takes kept on disappearing. Audio became trapped somewhere inside the machine. The equipment behaved in ways they simply couldn't explain. After hours of frustration, they finally stopped recording, looked up into the empty theater, and said, "If you let me finish this, I will be out of your way in 5 minutes." The very next take recorded perfectly. Looking back, the performer joked that whatever had been joining them in the spotlight seemed to enjoy live performances, but wasn't too interested in recording sessions. Whether that was a coincidence, a trick of the lighting, an exhausted performer seeing something that wasn't really there, or something else entirely, I'll leave that thought process up to you. One thing that became very clear while researching Centaur Theatre, unlike many of the venues we've covered so far, this building isn't remembered because of its violence, organized crime, or decades of newspaper headlines. It's remembered because of the people who dedicated their lives to performance. The actors, the directors, stage managers and technicians, musicians, writers, people who spent countless hours inside these walls, bringing stories to life for complete strangers. Maybe that's why the paranormal stories here feel different. They're quieter and more about the people who spent so much of their lives here. Today, Centaur Theatre continues doing exactly what it was created to do back in 1969. It gives artists a place to tell stories. The building no longer echoes with the voices of stockbrokers making deals across the trading floor. Today, it echoes with rehearsals, applause, laughter, and the occasional standing ovation. Whether the stories surrounding the Centaur are simply theater folklore, memories passed from one generation of performers to the next, or something a little harder to explain, very few buildings in Montreal have lived two lives quite like the Centaur, from the trading floor to the stage. I thank you for listening. I'm Sarah Beaupre, and this has been another episode of Backstage After Dark.